It was a Thursday afternoon in late January, the sun casting long shadows over a quiet rural town. The air was warm, almost heavy, and the world seemed to move just a little slower beneath the golden light. There was a sense of calm that settled over the streets, as if the town itself was taking a deep breath and exhaling in the stillness. The day was marked by a national period of reflection, but here, life moved at its usual unhurried pace. The shops were mostly closed, their windows reflecting the late afternoon sun, and only a few cars passed by, their engines humming softly in the distance. Children returned from school, their laughter echoing faintly as they made their way home. Store owners prepared for the evening, drawing down shutters and sweeping doorways, while council workers finished their shifts, exchanging a few words before heading off. It was a familiar rhythm, a pattern repeated week after week. The routines were comforting, the air thick with the stillness of a community winding down. The town square was nearly empty, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, and the only movement came from the occasional bird or a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. Groceries were bought, neighbors chatted quietly outside their homes, and plans for the weekend were made in low, familiar voices. There was a sense of belonging here, a feeling that everyone was part of something larger, even in the smallest of moments. There was no sign that anything would disturb this ordinary day. The silence was peaceful, the world outside a distant concern. Inside homes, the soft clatter of dishes and the murmur of evening routines filled the air, blending seamlessly with the quiet outside. Yet, in retrospect, this Thursday carried a weight that would only be understood later. The town was a place of wide streets and modest homes, where everyone knew each other and every face was familiar. It was a place where change felt distant, almost impossible. The sounds were gentle: nature, a distant dog, a slow-moving car. It was a backdrop of profound normalcy, soon to be shattered. The quiet was so complete that even the smallest sounds seemed amplified, each one a reminder of how peaceful things were, at least for now. The contrast between this peace and what was to come would haunt the town. No one could have predicted how quickly everything would change. In those final hours of daylight, the town rested in a fragile calm, unaware that the ordinary would soon become extraordinary. The town, a small dot on the map, is surrounded by farmland and the vast Australian interior. Life here moves at its own pace, shaped by the land and the seasons. The isolation is both a challenge and a comfort, creating a unique sense of belonging for those who call it home. Life here is shaped by resilience and deep family ties, with generations living side by side. Families often share not just homes, but histories and traditions, passing down stories and skills that have endured for decades. The bonds between neighbors are strong, forged by shared experiences and the need to rely on one another. The local council maintains the roads and infrastructure, its vehicles a familiar sight. These small acts of upkeep are vital, keeping the town connected and safe, especially when the nearest city is hours away. Work and social life blend together. News travels fast, privacy is rare, and support is close at hand. The general store is more than a place to shop. It's a hub for conversation, laughter, and the sharing of local news. The landscape is open and muted, the sky endless, the heat ever-present. Days stretch out beneath a vast horizon, and the weather shapes every aspect of daily life, from work to rest. This environment is both comforting and isolating, connecting residents to nature, but keeping them far from city resources. The distance from urban centers means self-reliance is essential, and solitude is a constant companion. The silence is constant, a companion to daily life. At night, the quiet deepens, broken only by the distant call of wildlife or the wind through the trees. Underneath the surface, tensions and struggles are quietly known. Challenges are faced with stoicism, and hardships are often kept behind closed doors, shared only with those closest. The town's rhythms are predictable, but vulnerability lingers in the background. Each day brings a familiar routine, yet uncertainty is never far away, woven into the fabric of daily existence. It is a place where the ordinary can quickly become extraordinary, where small moments take on great meaning, and where the spirit of the community endures through every season. Before that Thursday, a troubling story was already unfolding in official records. The warning signs were there, quietly accumulating in files and paperwork, each document adding another layer to a growing sense of unease. The suspect had a documented history of domestic violence, stalking, intimidation, assault, and property damage. These were not isolated incidents, but a pattern of behavior that had been noted and reported over time. An apprehended violence order was in place, meant to protect a specific person. This legal barrier was supposed to keep them safe, a line drawn by the courts to prevent further harm. At the time, he was on bail, living in the community under legal restrictions. The conditions were clear, but the reality was far more complicated. He was not licensed to own firearms, yet still had access to them. Despite the restrictions, the tools for violence were never truly out of reach. The system recognized the risk, but the means for violence remained. The gap between law and enforcement left dangerous possibilities open. Police reports and court filings tracked the escalating danger. Each new entry was a signal, a plea for intervention that grew more urgent with every incident. The suspect's presence was not just as a resident, but as someone under judicial watch. He was a person of concern, monitored but not contained. Despite legal measures, the threat persisted. The paperwork told a story of risk and warning, a narrative of danger that was impossible to ignore. The system tried to intervene, but the protections in place would prove tragically insufficient. In the end, the documents became a record of missed chances, a silent archive of warnings that went unheeded, and a stark reminder of the consequences when systems fail to protect. Around 4:30 p.m., the quiet of a residential street was shattered. Urgent calls to emergency services reported a serious incident. On arrival, responders found two people in a parked car, both fatally shot. A 50-year-old woman and a 32-year-old man, both well known in the community, had been killed. The car, once ordinary, became a crime scene. Their deaths sent shockwaves through the town. Police secured the area, confirming the gravity of what had happened. The suspect fled, driving a council-branded Ford Ranger, once a symbol of routine, now a sign of menace. The vehicle's familiarity made the violence even more jarring. The threat was not over. The suspect was on the move. The town's sense of safety was gone in an instant. The violence was spreading. Minutes later, violence erupted again on another quiet street. In a driveway, a 25-year-old woman and a 19-year-old man were attacked. The woman, 7 months pregnant, and the suspect's former partner was killed. Her unborn child lost as well. The 19-year-old man was critically wounded, but survived. The attack was a direct violation of the legal order meant to protect her. Emergency services rushed to the scene, saving the young man's life. The suspect fled once more, his vehicle captured in a witness's photo. In just minutes, 3 lives were lost, another nearly so, and the town was left in terror. The sequence was swift and devastating. The community's nightmare had only just begun. The manhunt was underway. Shock and silence fell over the town as news spread. Storefronts closed, streets emptied, and fear replaced routine. Police cordoned off the crime scenes, yellow tape marking the sites of tragedy. Forensic teams worked methodically, piecing together the timeline. The victims were not strangers. They were family, friends, neighbors. Grief became personal and widespread, floral tributes appearing at the scenes. officials addressed the public, confirming the fatalities and the ongoing search. The incident was declared a domestic violence attack, not terrorism. The mayor called it a profound tragedy, echoing the community's heartbreak. The town's grief was raw, the loss incomprehensible. A massive manhunt began, one of the largest in the region's history. Over 100 police, including tactical units and air support, joined the search. The suspect's description and vehicle were widely circulated, with warnings to the public. The search area expanded after an unconfirmed sighting, highlighting the challenge of the vast landscape. Residents lived in fear, the heavy police presence both reassuring and unsettling. The search was urgent and methodical, a race against time. The goal, to end the fear and bring the suspect to justice. In the days after, the town was suspended in grief. The quiet was now heavy, the rhythms of life broken. The victims were mourned as individuals, their absence deeply felt. Tributes appeared locally and at national events, connecting the tragedy to broader issues. The shootings sparked renewed debate on gun control and domestic violence, yet for the town, the focus was on supporting the bereaved and the survivor. Acts of kindness and solidarity multiplied as the community tried to heal. The process would be slow, the trauma lasting. In the aftermath, questions arose about how such violence could happen. The suspect's history was known, legal orders were in place, yet tragedy was not averted. The gap between official knowledge and real-world prevention proved fatal. The system's tools, orders, bail, restrictions were not enough. Access to firearms, despite prohibitions, exposed a critical weakness. This was not a single failure, but a reflection of systemic limits. Risk can be managed, not eliminated. Human behavior is unpredictable. The tragedy forces reflection on how to bridge the gap between warning and protection. The records told one story, but lived reality told another. The challenge remains, turning awareness into real safety before it's too late.